there's a hidden mental skill 99% of people never learn, and it's the difference between people who break under pressure and those who turn stress into power. And today, you're about to understand exactly what that skill is and how to use it. Most people think stress is the enemy. It's not. Stress is just raw energy, unpredictable, intense, uncomfortable. The real problem is how you react to it. In seconds, your brain panics, overthinks, and traps you in a loop you don't even realize you're in. But here's the truth. If you stay till the end of this video, you'll learn how to break that loop completely. It starts with something called metacognition, the ability to observe your own thoughts instead of becoming them. And once you unlock that, everything changes. Number 1, the pause drill. The pause drill is about interrupting your automatic reaction before it takes over. When a stressful trigger hits an argument, pressure, bad news, your brain instantly moves into fight, flight, or panic mode. That reaction is fast, emotional, and usually unproductive. Instead of responding immediately, you deliberately pause for 3 seconds. No talking, no action, just awareness. In those 3 seconds, you focus on your breath or simply notice what's happening inside your mind. This creates a gap between the trigger and your response. That gap is critical, because without it, you're just running on autopilot. With it, you regain control. Neurologically, this pause reduces amygdala-driven reactions and allows your prefrontal cortex, the decision-making part of your brain, to engage. It sounds simple, but it's uncomfortable, and that's why it works. You're training yourself to stay in control under pressure instead of being controlled by it. Number 2, labeling thoughts. Labeling thoughts is the practice of identifying what your mind is doing in real time instead of blindly believing it. When stress hits, your brain produces automatic thoughts like, "I can't handle this," or "this is going to fail." Instead of accepting them as truth, you assign them a label. You say, "This is anxiety, this is fear, this is overthinking," nothing more. This creates immediate psychological distance between you and the thought. You stop being inside the emotion and start observing it. That shift weakens its control over your behavior. Research shows that affect labeling reduces activity in the amygdala and increases control from the prefrontal cortex. In simple terms, you calm your emotional brain by naming the experience. The goal is not to fix or fight the thought instantly. It's to recognize it clearly. Once you can see the thought for what it is, you stop reacting automatically and start responding with intention instead. Number 3, third-person perspective. Third-person perspective is a cognitive distancing technique that forces you to step outside your immediate emotional state and evaluate the situation objectively. When stress spikes, instead of thinking from inside the reaction, you shift your viewpoint outward. You ask, "What would a calm, disciplined version of me do right now?" Or, "What would someone highly competent do in this situation?" This breaks identification with the emotion and activates higher-level reasoning. Psychologically, this reduces egocentric bias and engages the prefrontal cortex, improving decision quality under pressure. It also disrupts emotional amplification because you are no longer feeding the feeling from within. You are observing it from a controlled distance. The goal is not to suppress emotion, but to prevent it from dictating behavior. By repeatedly practicing this shift, you train your brain to default to strategic thinking instead of impulsive reactions. Over time, stressful situations become problems to solve, not threats to escape. That shift builds consistent control under pressure. Number 4, worst-case visualization. Worst-case visualization is about confronting fear instead of avoiding it. When stress appears, your brain exaggerates outcomes and creates vague, overwhelming threats. This keeps you stuck in anxiety without clarity. This drill forces precision. You ask, "What is the worst realistic outcome in this situation?" Not extreme fantasy realistic consequences. Then you go one step further. If that happens, what exactly will I do next? You mentally map your response step by step. This process converts fear into a defined scenario with an action plan. Uncertainty decreases and control increases. Neurologically, this reduces anxiety because the brain shifts from emotional prediction to problem-solving mode, engaging the prefrontal cortex instead of the amygdala. You are no longer reacting to an undefined threat. You are preparing for a defined outcome. The goal is not negativity. It's strategic clarity. When you fully face the worst case and see that you can handle it, fear loses intensity, and your behavior becomes deliberate, stable, and controlled under pressure consistently. Number 5, cognitive reframing. A cognitive reframe is the deliberate process of changing the meaning you assign to a stressful situation. Your brain automatically interprets pressure as threat, which triggers anxiety and avoidance. Reframing interrupts that interpretation and replaces it with a functional perspective. Instead of thinking, "This is too much," you consciously shift to, "This is training," or "This is an opportunity to improve." The external situation stays the same, but your internal response changes. This directly affects performance, decision-making, and emotional stability. Neurologically, reframing reduces threat perception and increases cognitive control by engaging the prefrontal cortex. The key requirement is speed and consistency. You must apply the reframe immediately after noticing the stress response. With repetition, your brain starts defaulting to constructive interpretations instead of destructive ones. Over time, stress stops feeling like pressure and starts functioning as a signal for focus, adaptation, and deliberate action. This shift builds resilience and allows you to convert discomfort into measurable progress without losing control under pressure in high-stakes situations repeatedly over time. Consistently. Number 6. Pattern interruption. Pattern interruption is the act of breaking your automatic stress response before it escalates. When stress hits, your brain follows a predictable loop: negative thought, emotional spike, reactive behavior. This loop runs fast and unconsciously. Pattern interruption disrupts it in real time. You do this by changing your physical or mental state immediately. Stand up, splash cold water, take controlled breaths, or shift your environment. The goal is not comfort, it's disruption. This works because your physiological state directly influences your mental state. By forcing a physical change, you interrupt the neural pattern driving the reaction. Timing is critical. The earlier you interrupt the pattern, the easier it is to regain control. If you wait, the loop strengthens and becomes harder to break. With repetition, your brain learns that stress does not always lead to the same reaction. You weaken automatic responses and build flexibility. Over time, you stop being predictable under pressure and start responding with control, clarity, and deliberate action instead of impulse. Number 7. Controlled exposure to stress. Controlled exposure to stress is the deliberate practice of placing yourself in manageable, high-pressure situations to train your response. Instead of avoiding discomfort, you introduce it in controlled doses. This could be cold showers, intense workouts, difficult conversations, or time-constrained tasks. The goal is not to overwhelm yourself, but to build tolerance gradually. Each exposure teaches your brain that stress is not a threat, but a condition you can handle. This reduces sensitivity to future stressors. Neurologically, repeated exposure lowers reactivity in the amygdala and strengthens the prefrontal cortex, improving emotional regulation and decision-making under pressure. Control is essential. You choose the intensity, duration, and context. This prevents panic while still challenging your limits. Consistency matters more than intensity. Small, repeated exposures create lasting adaptation. Over time, situations that once triggered anxiety become familiar. You stop avoiding pressure and start operating effectively within it. This transforms stress from something you fear into something you use to build resilience, confidence, and control. Stress stops being something that controls you and starts becoming something you control. It becomes your weapon. Every trigger turns into focus, every pressure point into performance. But most people never reach this level. They stay reactive, stuck in loops they don't question. If you master this, you separate yourself instantly from the average, from the emotional, from the ones who never take control. If this hits something real inside you, don't ignore it. Because most people feel this kind of clarity for a moment, and then disappear back into distraction, back into reactions, back into the same patterns that keep them stuck. Don't be that person. Comment below with one word: control. Not for me, for you. A signal that you're done being passive inside your own mind. And if you're serious about becoming someone who doesn't break under pressure, subscribe. Because this isn't motivation, this is training.